Alright, welcome back. We are making... Okay, I know the time has kind of passed for these kind of videos. However, I still wanted to make one. So, today we're doing a tier list video. So, I have my tier list here. We'll just be going in order. And then after this video, I am planning to do an in-depth review of each faction. And, yeah. So, that's the plan. So, for today, we'll start off with Tribal. So, we have our clubber here. I'd say the clubber is a solid unit. Well, you know what? No, the clubber is not a solid unit. You see this price here, 70 whatever coins, whatever you want to call it. We put a farmer here, the exact same amount, and who wins like 9 times out of 10 is the farmer, right? Because the farmer has the lunge, and the clubber doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a shield. He doesn't have any cool abilities or whatever. He's easily taken out by ranged units, and people mostly use him for fodder, except there are way better fodder units out there. Just to name a few, like the halfling, or some people use the bard. I don't know, I guess it kind of depends. So yeah, I would rate the clubber here, I'd say he's probably D tier. No, you know what, I mean, all tabs units are pretty good for what they do, right? But he's probably one of the worst ones. I dislike him the most. I never really use him, so that's why he's going in the F tier. So, alright, on to our next unit, which is the Protector. Now, seems like a solid unit, only a little bit more than the clubber, and it has a decent shield. However, when compared to the shield bearer, who is only 10 gold more, I don't know why he seems to be able to take a lot more arrows. See, he didn't die there. I think one of the reasons is because, all right, he did eventually take one. One of the reasons is because the Protector has a little hole here, although, ooh, whoa, I don't really see arrows or spears really going through it. It's mostly because the shield is smaller, so there's more chance for him to be hit in the legs, and his arms extend. Whoa, oh, sorry. His arms extend out from the sides. If you look at it here, you can see he still provides quite a large hitbox. So Tribal faction not looking good too far. I'd say the Protector is in a D tier. I mean, if you're extremely low on money where you just can't afford shield bearers, but you still need a decent shield, I would go with Protector, and then you could do Farmer to make a crappy phalanx, the poor man's phalanx. Our next unit here is the Spear Thrower, which I think is actually a very solid unit. I think I'm pretty sure he is the cheapest ranged unit in the game, at only 120 and dealing massive damage. His only problem is that he struggles. Whoa, he struggles with his reload. It takes a long time to reload for him. As you can see here, he may be able to get off 2 volleys, and his range is incredibly short. They actually had to move up there while the Protectors were moving as well. So they have an incredibly short range and a slow reload. However, I think for being a decent ranged unit, if you get enough of them, they do good damage. And say if you're trying to kill something like a Mammoth, these units are ideal because they do a lot of damage. You don't need to really worry too much about reload, and they'll almost always hit. That's another thing, their accuracy is very poor, but it's going to be very hard to miss a Mammoth, especially if he's turned around. So I would give them a rating. Now, just these are all my opinions, so if you think something should go into a different tier, then that's great for you. This is where I'm putting them. I'd say he's a solid B. He's a solid B. I don't use him all the time. In fact, I don't use him most of the time. I usually find archers superior. But he's not a horrible unit. He still has his uses, whereas these two don't have as much units. as much units, as much uses. Alright, now we're on to the Stoner, Colorado's favorite. Yeah, so he's a rock thrower. The thing about this guy is that I don't think, okay, so actually no, never mind. I was gonna say, I don't think he's affected by shields, however he is. But you saw that it knocked the shield back when he hit, the shield. So that's a good thing, but he's mostly like clearing he clears units basically. He clears like groups of units. If you have like a group of clubbers here, he'll be able to clear at least a few of them. I'm not sure if he's worth it in my opinion. See, like normally he's gonna do better than that, but obviously you have those inaccuracies and he's not gonna be able to kill a bunch of units in one rock throw. He also has yeah, see, look at that. 1 unit for 3 rocks. Ugh. He's showing poor performance here, but I found him to actually be quite useful. He has small AoE if units are like lined up. And what's also interesting is, let me see if I can show this off here, is that his stone actually acts as a shield. Now, did I hit it there? I don't know, the arrow's gone. But I don't think I hit it. But his stone actually acts as a shield, which actually comes in handy like a lot more times than you think it would if you use these guys a lot. So I'd say these are also solid units. However, I don't use them as much as the spear thrower, and I feel like they're limited with also quite a short range. So I'm going to put them in a C tier. He can definitely be good if you have enough of him, but overall, he's not worth it for me. Next to the Bone Mage. Okay, I love this unit. This is a very strong unit. He does a lot of good grouped attack, and his reload isn't actually too bad for how much damage he does. Well, he killed quite a few of those units, and he's relatively cheap as well. Now, the thing that the Bone Mage suffers from is, let's get a more compact grouping here. He's good against these kind of formations. However, if you have spear throwers, well, not spear throwers, it doesn't have to be spear throwers. Any ranged unit in the backline, he's going to be weak if you put him up front. I'm like, well, why do you put him up front? Because if we put units in front, he has the potential to cause a lot of friendly fire. He can kill a lot of his own units. He killed what looks like four of his own units there. Now, was it worth it? I mean, I'd say probably. But yeah, so normally what I like to do, instead of putting him behind the main force, so let's say this group of clubbers is our main force, and in order not to be targeted by these guys, well, still being targeted, but maybe not being hit, is to put like 1 or 2 protectors, crappy shield units. However, now here he was too close to take any spears. But if the army is like farther away, you get the drift. The protectors will most likely take the spears or arrows, and he won't be killing a lot of his own units, and he'll be doing quite a lot of damage. So I'd say that the Bone Mage is probably a definite A tier for me. I know it looks like we're kind of going in order, but you know, that's just the way it is sometimes. Yeah, so I'd say Bone Mage is definitely a really good A. And now we have the Chieftain. Now, I never really used the Chieftain. He's supposed to be like a strong melee unit. However, he can easily be swamped by a lot of units, and he's weak to range. I guess fighting in formations is what he does best. See, he's able to take out quite a few of these clubbers actually before he goes down, but is it worth it? I don't know. Obviously we put like triple the amount of him. If we just put 400, let's see how he does. 420, that's good enough. Yeah, I mean, you can see that he does okay. He does really good damage, but he's weak to range and to like spears. Not spear throwers, but like if you have like Sirisas, he can easily just be poked to death. So yeah, and he doesn't have a lot of health, so I don't use him all that often. I don't think he's all that good, especially for his $400 price, which I feel like you can get better units with. I'm gonna say he's probably C tier. I think that's where he belongs. Now the Mammoth, the boss unit of the tribal faction. I also don't really find myself using the Mammoth too much. The reason why is because he's decently tanky, right? He does great AoE. He's a good unit for sure. However, his weakness is like ballistas. He's a good unit. I just don't find myself using him. You can see we took him out easily with 400 coins less than his worth with just all ranged units. So he could easily trample them. And I often don't find myself having enough money to have a Mammoth and like a good infantry line and ranged line. So I find that he's not as good as he could be, and like I was saying, I guess the spear throwers are adept at taking him out. I just never find myself using him that much. I don't think he's very good. Definitely not S. I'd say A or B. I'm going to go ahead and put him in A because I can see situations where he can be useful, especially on some maps like the bridge, just blocking that bridge and trampling units so that they can fall off. He'd be very good there, I guess. So yeah, I also see people using him as shields. Like once he dies, his body still has the collision effect. So if you put units behind there, I guess, but it's not really practical enough for me. So okay, off the Mammoth. We finished our tribal faction. We can see the final rating here. So let's go to the farmer faction. I like the idea of this faction. They have to come up with creative ways to defeat the enemy, and the first way is by halflings. Now halflings are interesting, at least for me. I never use a lot of halflings, mostly because my computer can't handle it, and also because they're not good that way. At least I don't think so. I think they excel at having a few halflings in the front, and then say there's like a powerful siege engine, siege weapon, whatever you want to call it, that targets them first, and then you put your main force just behind the halflings. And so when this thing fires, it hopefully won't hit our squires. See, it didn't kill any of our squires, and now they can close in and kill the catapult. So that's the way I use it. They're like single-use distractions. I actually find myself using them as distractions more than even the bard, just because I don't think the bard works in the way that it's supposed to. I think they target it like a regular unit. It may have a slightly higher priority, but halflings are cheaper, and they also have the added benefit if you're trying to if you're actually just trying to waste arrows or like small projectiles. Sometimes the halfling won't even be hit because he's really small, or I guess the bard doesn't hit there. Whereas the bard will almost always be hit, except in situations where I actually want him to be hit. So there's that. So I would put the halfling in solid A tier. He's very useful. I don't use him for damage. He just soaks up shots, right? Next is the farmer. The better clubber is what I like to call it. Set is same price as a clubber, but has that nice lunge attack. I can catch some more expensive units off guard, so I like to use them there. They will be able to take out some squires, and they're a good distraction force too. They still only take one arrow, but I'd say they're definitely decent units, and I find myself using them as fodder much more than clubbers because they actually have a good potential to kill with their lunge attack. Except not here, because you know what? Yeah, the game doesn't want them to. So I'd put them in a solid B tier. They're a solid unit, but you know, just fodder. If the enemy doesn't really have good AoE, then I usually go a lot of farmers. Okay, hay balers. I think these units are really cool, and the reason is because they can take ballista bolts. Like one of the units that does the most damage in the game is the Ballista. And if the Ballista hits the hay, like here, it definitely knocks me back quite a bit. But I've actually found that Ballista versus a hay baler, I can usually get the hay baler to win, so that's pretty cool. Obviously they can be hit in the head, and I think the arms as well, but still really good. And also they don't take any damage from, like, if archers hit the hay. The hay is like an invulnerable shield, right? But as you can see, with a group of attack units, I don't know where he's hit. Oh yeah, look, I think there's like a arrow going through his leg there, so he still has quite a bit of his body exposed, but decent. Really the only place I use him, he has horrible attack with a stupid wooden stick. Only place I use him is for ballistas. If you just want to take arrows, just go shield bearer. 40 units less than the hay baler, and I find that he's much more reliable if put in like groups. So I don't know, that's the way that I use him. He can soak a ballista bolt, so I'd say he's a solid unit as well. His invulnerable hay is really the only thing that's keeping him going, but it's very useful. Next we have the potion seller. I don't know, I think I call it poison, although it doesn't do damage over time. He's a very expensive unit, and really I think we need to move over to a bridge map to show his effectiveness the most, because on the bridge map he can his ability is, there's an area effect potion that hits a wide variety of units, and that can make them, they'd like either like run away or try to fall off, or just get confused. So that's pretty good. His only downside is he hits his own units a ton. The area effect is actually very good, but you can see against, like, what we had, like 6 farmers here. Looks like they're all gonna fall off just with this one potion seller. And how much? 490 some farmers, 490 units worth of farmers, and only 340 for the potion seller. Now the unfortunate thing is, if you have if you're relying heavily on melee and using the potion seller, okay, so if all the units didn't die there, well, we can see that the potion seller is going to hit them as well. So it's just kind of cost benefit. If you're going light melee on like a map like this, then he's very good. But you can see that he's gonna harm his own units as well, and yeah. But he doesn't miss all that much, so that's pretty good. I'd say he's a good unit. I don't use him a ton, but I do use him sometimes. I'd say he's a solid A. We haven't put anyone in S tier yet. Funny enough. Okay, the Harvester. Let's go back to the Farmer 2 map. I love this map. It just looks nice. Okay, so the Harvester. I think it's supposed to be more of like an AoE type of unit. I never use the Harvester, honestly, unless I'm just like, I mean, yeah, he killed 1 unit there, and he has a long reload. Ooh, okay, wait, what? I've never seen this happen. He cleared all of those units with 1 swing. Okay, oh wait, let's see if that's just a fluke. I've never seen that happen before. Apparently, I guess that's what he's supposed to do. Look, he just took out 2 units there. But I find with like such a long reload, he can easily be speared to death like there. I think that was a fluke the first time, but I mean, he killed like 2 units on average for every swing. But with the, I don't know, he only has a 3-second reload, but it seems longer, right? I mean, it's decently long for a melee unit with only 1 attack. So there's that. It's supposed to be AoE, but doesn't really accomplish that in my opinion. So I'd say the Harvester is a C tier for me. Okay, Wheelbarrow, and he doesn't work well in formations because with the wide attack, he's likely to end up hurting or like just moving his units as well. Alright, so Wheelbarrow. This unit, the earliest cav. If you played like the tabs alpha, you know, there's like the reindeer chariot and stuff like that. And before when Tabs 2 was just released, before we had Dynasty, Renaissance, Pirate, Spooky, and the Cav and the Secret faction, this was the Cav. And a horrible unit it was. At least in my opinion. It's just a crappy unit. It doesn't do too much damage. It's good at disrupting formations. But sometimes if we put like units elevated up there, it'll actually kill the Wheelbarrow. It'll like break the Wheelbarrow. Let's try to illustrate this. If we put units up, get up there. If we put units like up here, I find that him going up slopes can actually break it, especially with the Wheelbarrow Dragon, which is a totally different unit. And then we have to discuss the price. What are you really getting here? We have like a farmer, this apple or tomato thrower, who actually does pretty good damage. You can kill an archer in one hit. And they go quite fast, and they're really for disrupting enemy units. But a lot of times, unless they just get lucky, they don't have too much health, and they're definitely outclassed by the same price Jouster, which you can see just destroyed them one-on-one. Obviously, they're not going to really be used like this one-on-one, more breaking formations, but not as good of a unit as it could be. So I'm going to put the Wheelbarrow probably in C. I think it's a funny unit, but not all that useful. Alright, we kind of need to move a little bit faster here. Okay, Scarecrow. Scarecrow unit. Pretty good, actually. I'd say it's really good, especially with cheerleaders. It does decent damage with the crows, and so that's nice. It's just, obviously, without melee units, it's really vulnerable, but it doesn't really do friendly fire, and you can see it took out most of these halberds, all of the halberds, which is the same price as him. So very good, a lot of damage, especially against like tanker units like this is where I find them useful, not really against crowds. So the Scarecrow, I would say, is definitely, I'm going to put him in S actually. He's a really good unit, the boss unit of the farmers, and pretty cheap too. Next we move on to the Bard. What is this unit? Well, it's supposed to distract units and get them to follow him. The problem is he does it worse than the halfling, and if they have any range, he's going to be immediately shot down. So there's that. He's not very good. I'd rather just use a halfling. But props to them for making a funny unit. But no, I'm gonna say D tier. Okay, Squire unit. So if you've seen the Tabs tournament videos on YouTube, then you know that the Squire really does really good. However, he's not good against ranged. He can't really work well behind shields because of his short two-handed sword. So unfortunate that it's so short, but it is, and it can't really reach behind the shields. So yeah, susceptible to range. He does decent damage if he gets a hit in, but I can usually outclass him with just more farmers. He's like susceptible to lots of quantity, so I put him, he's a solid unit, probably B. Yeah, he could be an A. I'm putting him in B because I don't think he's better than any of the units currently in A. Alright, Archer, staple unit. Staple unit. I always put these guys in my armies, and they're very good at what they do. They're easily, their arrows can easily be deflected by like samurai or just absorbed by shields. But for what they do, they're really good. Once you get these shields down with some melee, that's when the archers really do. That's when the archers really work. Or if you turn these units around with some berserkers or stuff. So yeah, a very good unit. Can one-shot a lot of the basic melee units. So I'd say Archer is definitely S tier. I use them all the time. Next is the Healer, a unit that I don't really use all the time unless I'm just trying to keep a unit alive for some reason. If you're just doing something silly, like keeping the king alive with these like healers, I guess, but just having them in my army never really does too much for me. So for that reason, I would say that the healers are going to be in B tier. I can see when they're going to be useful. However, I can't use them really. Knights, a cool unit. I really like these units. in the medieval faction. Probably one of my favorite factions. So the knight, he has a nice dash, and he does good damage, and his shield is actually way better than it looks. It looks like it covers most of him, I guess, but it's actually really pretty big, considering he's a bigger unit himself. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't know why he's going over there. Do we have a unit over there? I don't know. Okay, let's put him over here. But the shield is actually pretty good, and he has good damage. Like, he absorbed all those arrows, and he can take like 2 or 3 arrows, so that's pretty good as well. Good in melee, good against ranged, a decent all-around unit. So I'm definitely going to put the knight in A tier. I love this unit. Now the catapult. Whew, another really good unit as well. I think it suffers when you put a lot of guys in front of it. But if you're going like a lot of range, like if they don't have range, just putting down a large amount of catapults is pretty good. You can see it wrecks a lot of units, and yeah, I'd say it's definitely a pretty good unit. So I'm gonna put it in A as well as the knight. The king. This unit used to be good. Keyword used to be good. He is, I'd say, he is okay now. With the addition of like units like the Reaper, which can easily outclass him, or the Swordcaster. Find that Candleheads and Vampires are good against him, and like just better melee units. He kind of suffers a bit, and a bit as I mean a lot. He's not all that tanky anymore, and for his price, I never use him too much. I mean, I can see when he would be good. See, he does the job a lot better than Harvesters, but he's also like 3 times as expensive as Harvesters. You can see he can wreck a lot of units if you're only going melee, so there's that. But most of the time you'd have a well-rounded army, which would have good range too, and distraction units like halflings that would be hard for him to hit. So that's why I'm placing him in B tier. Alright, on to the ancient faction. So first unit, which I've already talked quite a bit about, is the shield bearer. I love this unit. It's so good. Especially in combination with like the Sirisha. You can get nasty phalanxes. And they're really good at blocking arrows. They're good at what they do. And if you put samurai behind them, that's always a really strong formation. But you see, they blocked most of the arrows. I guess not for these guys, but out of what? We had 7 archers there. 2 of our guys died, and it wasn't any of the shield bearers. So I'd say that they're a staple unit. I'm definitely going to put them in S tier. And yeah, so let's move on to the Sirisha, which I also mentioned. They're really good. That's all I can say. They do great damage, they're good in formations. The only thing they suffer from is, let's see if I can illustrate it here, is sometimes you can get units like close, so that they'll have to back up to attack. Unfortunately, it didn't work here because the Berserkers leaped past them. But yeah, you can see that they suffer from that a little bit. They're not like good at one-on-one. Obviously, they are formation units. They did decently well there, especially against a lot more expensive force. I definitely think that they deserve to be in the S tier. Next is the Hoplite. This is like if you combine a shield bearer and Sirisha and made them worse. They're okay. They're okay. I don't like them all that much. Their shields are decent. They cover the right side of their body, looking this way. They cover most of their chest area, so that's pretty good. However, the spears are short, and they can sometimes be like quite ineffective. And you're really only going to use them like as like reserve units to join the fight once like your main formation has fallen. If you have like protectors and farmers or shield bearers and Sarissas, I put them at B. Definitely B tier. Next is the Snake Archer. This unit's crap. Okay, I'm just gonna say this unit's horrible. I never use him unless I'm just trying to be like funny, but he's bad. Honestly, his reload is so long, and the snakes glitch into the ground. They glitch into the ground. Okay, the snake is here. But like, especially on maps like the Renaissance, I find that the snakes can actually glitch into the ground. I know, take a shot every time I say that because I said it like 15 times. But yeah, and he has an insane reload, like 14, 13 seconds. This unit's horrible. Definitely F tier. Yeah, I can see the use as distraction expendable units, but usually my battles don't last long enough for them to fire more than twice. So there's that. The Ballista. I want this unit to be good. I think it's a cool unit. It's the cheapest siege weapon, good at wrecking formations. It actually can do quite an area of effect if the guys are closely packed. But his reload is so long to charge up. And then look, what if you get a wonky shot like that? He kills one guy. What is that crap? No, it's not good. It can be good. It can be good. But it's not good enough for me most of the time, so I'm going to put it in B tier. No, C tier. I'm saying C tier. I know some people will think, well, no, that you're stupid, and well, sometimes that is the case. Next, we're going to the Minotaur. This unit is really cool. I like the Minotaur a lot. A little bit more expensive than the King, but he's pretty tanky. He's also, I guess, kind of a cav unit. But he's good at wrecking like formations. I feel like a lot of units are good at this, but if I just put like some shield guys there, obviously they're not going to be able to kill him, but if he can like charge into them, kills some people that way, and then does brutal melee. And sometimes if you put your range units too close to your melee units, if he charges through the line, he will actually target the range units, so that's really cool as well. Okay, so he did that here, but obviously, usually you're going to have melee units as well to distract some of them while he picks off the backline people, so that's really cool. Unfortunately, some friendly fire from a melee unit, but yeah, no, he's pretty good. I like him. I'd say he's a solid B tier. Next is Zeus, who was recently, he was buffed quite a while ago, but now he has like a decent amount of health for such a high damage dealing unit. And fun fact, if you actually slow down time, he becomes better, or this is what I've heard, and I think I've seen it too. If you slow down time, the lighting has more of a chance to arc and does more damage because it's like tick based damage. But yeah, he's really strong. He does a lot of damage. You're not really going to use him for single target damage, more like group damage like this, and he can take a few arrows as well. So yeah, Zeus is definitely A tier. Next, we're moving on to the Vikings. Okay, so I'd say as a faction, they're pretty good. I think this is gonna be the last faction of the video, and then I'll make a part 2 with the Dynasty, Renaissance, Pirate, and Spooky faction, and then I'll do a whole nother video on the secret faction, and then I'll go through each faction individually. So okay, so Headbutter. Let's get rid of all those units here, and decently expensive actually for what they're worth in my opinion. They wreck units like on their first charge, but if you have like some backup units like back here, they won't be as good. I don't use them too much. Obviously, I mean they do decent amount of damage. However, after the leap is done, I would say they're worse than useless, and well, not worse than useless, but they're pretty bad after that. So kind of like a single time use unit. I'd say probably C. Next is archers. Ice archers, sorry. I think these units are pretty good. Only a little bit more expensive than regular archers. They excel at dealing with like cheap melee units. They have a really fast fire rate. However, they don't do any damage. So if the ice completely wears off, then they're useless now. All the arrows that they shot are useless. But yeah, once they killed, they kill decently fast. So I'd say they're pretty good. However, they also have a really bad tendency to hit their own units, especially if you get a lot. So I'd say they're probably A tier for me. I use them decently. I use them sometimes I don't. Whatever. But yeah, so Ice Archer's there. Next is Brawlers. These are kind of a mixed bag for me. Sometimes they can be good, and sometimes they're like a worse Hoplite. They're 40 coins more expensive than Hoplites, and paired up against archers, their shields cover less of their body than Hoplites, it seems. You can see that their legs are very exposed. A lot of guys went down there. Only like we absorbed 4 arrows out of however many archers. And then they have an extremely short range with their little hatchet, axe, whatever. But they do okay in melee, I guess. So that makes me want to put them probably in B. Next is the Berserker, a really fantastic unit. If you're trying to jump over enemy lines and kill like backline troops. They're not incredibly strong melee units, as you saw. Who took them out? I think the Sirishas did, and they had a lot. I put like more of them down, like, or they were more expensive, whatever. But yeah, see, they excel at clearing the backline units, so I'd say they're decently good. Probably A tier for me. The next would be the Valkyrie unit, which I like a lot. Sometimes Valkyrie can be pretty bad. They're not really good at dealing with high damage melee units. They're more for backline as well. Except you see they dodge all of the arrows there before they even charged in. But if there's like a good melee unit or a few melee units in the group, then Valkyries just become really bad. Personally, I would rather get 2 Berserkers than 1 Valkyrie. So I'm going to put them in C tier. Ooh, second to last unit for this episode is going to be the Jarl. Jarl is an interesting unit. He can take quite a few arrows. I usually put like him in the middle of the group. Just like he's good at killing melee units basically, and he's really tanky. He's like a Minotaur without the charge and a long axe. Or a big axe, I don't know. Yeah, he just cleared those guys, so he's decently good, I'd say. I definitely put him in B. Or A. I'm going to say B. Next, our last unit, the Longship. Now, this unit is supposed to clear a lot of units when they like release a boat, just to give you an idea of how it works if you've never played the game or never used this unit. There we go. That's what it does. Kind of like a single-time catapult. I think it has a bigger range. What this suffers from is, see this unit I was talking about earlier, the halfling? Watch what happens here when we put the halfling down here, and then whatever, you'd have your melee units over here. The halfling just absorbs the boat. Oh, it kills the halfling, sure. 50 damage, not really worth it. And then these paddle guys actually do really good damage if they can hit you. But oftentimes they get stuck on the boat, and yeah, I'd say I don't really use the boat too much unless the enemy puts their army like right on the line. Then I guess I'll use a boat. Like if you put your army, all of your army like right here, then I'll use a boat. But other than that, not really worth it for me. I'd say definitely a C tier. Alright, well that concludes the video today. Next we'll talk about the Dynasty, Renaissance, Pirate, and Spooky faction, and then the video after that. If the update hasn't come out yet, then we'll talk about the Secret faction, and then we'll go through each faction in depth. So yes, thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all later. Adios.